This episode of The Totally Rad Show is brought to you by AN Hosting, offering premium web hosting since 2001. Coming up on today's TRS, we be trippin' on the comic book Daytripper.
The comic book we're talking about today is just been collected into a new trade paperback. It's called Daytripper, and it's from FabioMoon and Gabriel Ba. And both these artists are living in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I think I pronounced that correctly. And this is exactly where this book is set. It's not a book about superheroes in any way, but it does have some supernatural elements in the sense that it is about one man's life, and each issue of the comic as it was coming out was titled a year, his age at that moment, and it's usually a snippet of that time of his life. For instance, one issue will be when he's 33, another issue is when he's 10, another issue is when he's in his 50s. And it's not chronological, it skips around, but oddly, each one ends with his death, which is apropos because his profession, for a large part of his life, is writing obituaries. So it's looking at a life through the context of death in a lot of ways. But it touches on a lot of different times of a lifetime, a lot of different relationships that influence his life, and it's set in the backdrop of this beautiful Brazilian landscape where he's, sometimes vacationing, sometimes living a very domestic existence. It's dealing with his relationship with his father and mother, as well as his wife. So it's very much about a lifetime. Daniel, I said the same thing like 3 times in a row, didn't I? Tell me what you think of it.
I'm sure you could predict what I think of it. And if you did that, you would be right.
You hated it.
I hated this book. No, quite the opposite. This is probably will be one of my favorite things to happen to me this year, if not in my lifetime. If I were to die today, it certainly would be. And you could put that in my obituary. I loved it. I loved it. I think everyone at some point has thought about the things that this discuss, which is like, if I were to die today, what would people say about me? What would it be? And I mean, a comedian could do an act based on this kind of material, and we would all be nodding our heads like, that's so true, that's so true. And here it lies in a comic book of like, we always, whenever we think about death, at least for me, I think about death a little bit, and then I get freaked out, and then I move on, and this sort of like forced me to like really consider my life, my lifetime, and it's remarkable. This will inform the rest of my life. Also, the art is great, really great. The coloring is amazing. It's like great cinematography. It has looks in it that are very cinematic in terms, like the lighting in the comic, the golden hour, the magic hour lighting is gorgeous, and we don't often see it in comics because you can do anything with the color. You always go hyper real or you go gritty, but you don't go like, this is like Terrence Malick style, like naturally beautiful. It's a really special comic book, folks. Really special.
Interesting.
Special for you, Alex, or not so much?
Well, I had a very special relationship. It was,
I believe that's
Bill Clinton and I had an exchange. No,
Yeah.
I had a sort of interesting relationship with this book because it started out and I was sort of like, okay, and then he dies, and I was like, well, oh, okay. It's going to be these little stories of people's, the sort of like a slice of their life before they pass away. So I was
like
really
6
sort
feet
of
under almost.
Yeah, so I started, so I got really excited about it. Then I was like, wow, that's weird. I think they have the same name. And it took me a while to sort of get over that, to be able to enjoy what it was telling me, because it seemed so gimmicky that I went, so that's the gimmick of the book. that's now I see why it's called Day Trip. It's like a day in the life of somebody who's about to die. But then that's not what it was. So it took me like 2 or 3 sort of chapters to kind of lock into, it's not about that. It's just sort of a way to sort of punctuate the truth about this moment in a way that only can be done through death.
I think that's a really great way of putting it.
So if you go out and read this book, which I think you should because it is an amazing book, don't let the gimmick allow you to not understand the first.
We already
couple
ruined
lines.
it for them. Unfortunately, we have to talk about it, but like they can't now because like that was pretty special to like discover it on your own. You're like, oh.
But it didn't allow me to sort of let those first couple chapters hit me the way that the rest of the book did. Though I will say the reason why I'm saying I have a special relationship with this book is it's the most, you know, either side of liking, loving, hating I've ever been in a book. I started kind of confused and not really enjoying it. I locked into it, and then the middle of the book, I was just pure joy and love and introspective and hard not to be able to put yourself into these situations and think about your life and what you're doing and where you're going and where you have been and who you're doing that with and all of these great things. And then at the end, it kind of came off the rails for me a little bit. It wasn't about the right stuff for me anymore, and I was disconnected for the last couple little vignettes, and then the end vignette brought me right back around when it became about the sort of father and son relationship and the father and son relationship. And by the end, it was just an amazing sort of roller coaster of even my feelings towards the book. So it is an experience that I think is a must-read, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'm definitely siding more with Dan. I think this is in my top 3 comic books ever. It's like Watchmen, Preacher, and this. I can't possibly be more effusive. It is a wonderful experience, so unlike anything in any medium I have ever experienced. And I read this in single issues, which there are very few stories that I would almost recommend are better in single issues.
I was going to ask you about that. I wish I had read it in single issues.
Because each one is a self-contained story that ends with a death, and they land on you in a different way than if you just get to turn the page and start the next chapter.
Right.
Yeah.
That being said, each thing does build on the next, and reading it again in a collected form like this, and seeing that we're at this next life moment because of what we know now, and sometimes going back to age 10 is the most appropriate place to go after being in your 20s, after knowing this amount of knowledge. It's so beautifully written, and I will also reinforce what Dan said about the art. I can't speak highly enough about it. Is gorgeous, gorgeous art. I want them to come out with the Ultimate Edition. You know, what does DC do? This is a Vertigo book, so God, I can't remember the name of it, but you know the Super Edition where they make it large. I would buy it in a heartbeat. It is absolutely gorgeous. Like you said, the coloring is very special. The backgrounds, you feel like you're in a place, and there's so much beauty. And the book is really about every kind of relationship. It's about loves lost, loves found, thinking you're in love and discovering that you can't live with someone, and difficult times with your parents and family, finding catharsis with your parents and family, having a child yourself, friendship. There's a large theme of what it means to be a friendship and losing one's way and finding one's way. There's so much in this that is relevant and impactful. There are at least 3 times where I broke down in tears reading it. It is such a powerful experience for me. I highly, highly recommend it, and I think it is a beautiful piece of art that stands next to any novel or film or anything as being something very, very special.
And something you can sort of only get away with in comic book form.
Right.
I mean, you can't. You know, the film version of this would be a little disjointed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
The interesting thing, I said I'm envious of you to have read it in single issues, because I do feel like it would probably play really well that way. But it was pretty awesome to experience the death of someone at that point in their life, and then you see, but if that didn't happen, he would have gone on to do this, and that like girl that he met the day he died, like,
Yeah.
okay, well, he didn't die. So that means they would have gone off together and
Yeah.
they would have had this and then he would have died. Like that, to kind of get all in one breath is also pretty fascinating and life informing and
it almost
all that,
works in either way, in a different way, which is sort of in and of itself a sort of win.
Did Gabriel Ba not do the art for Lock and Key? Is that someone else?
Boy, I can't remember.
I feel like I've read something of.
Oh, he's done a lot of stuff. I mean, they've both worked a lot in comics for a long time.
But only together, ever separately?
Oh yeah, no, separately a lot.
Okay. Well, then
And are they actually twin brothers?
That's what it says in the back of the book. I don't know that to be the case, but I believe them. I take them at their word.
Also, as an aside, Craig Thompson, who did Blankets, which you guys know is like my other favorite thing of all time. He does the foreword. That's like the coolest foreword ever in a comic. It's an art. It's
its
a
own
comic page.
Yeah,
it's not like words.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
It's definitely a must read.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, remember to stick around for this day in rad history, but first we want to thank our sponsor. AN Hosting has been providing simple and affordable web hosting since 2001. There's an exclusive 3-month free discount for TRS viewers.
It's not just a discount. That's 3 months free.
It's 3 months free. It's free domain and $100 credit for search engine optimization using Google or Yahoo. 24/7 support. Wow. I know, it's like, why would you not start your website that way? 24/7 US-based phone support, chat, and email. Over 100 popular scripts like Drupal, WordPress. You can just install them with one click. Visit AN Hosting, the letter A, the letter N, the word hosting.com/TRS to get your 3 months of free web hosting. Amazing. Make sure to get those backgrounds in, fans at totallyradshow.com.
So cool.
Amazing. Also, jinx.com/TRS. We will see you tomorrow.
That's right underneath that.
Don't miss tomorrow's show when we play us some Tagline Takedown.
Today is February 24th, and on this day in rad history, in my favorite year, 1607.
Ooh, good year.
Claudio Monteverdi's opera Orfeo premieres in Mantua.
You know what's great about Orfeo? Is it's hard to get into, but once you do, the center is delicious.
What I love about this,
twist off Orfeo.
It's like we have like premieres. We think of movie we have premieres, and like in 1607,
there was a
premiered. You know, and people were like lining up. There was probably paparazzi. I mean, where do you think the word paparazzi comes from?
Yeah,
it's clearly Italian.
With paints, and they were like, I think I almost got her. Just hold still for a second.
A series of scrolls where people would write like, it was terrible. I liked it before they cast so and so. It ruined it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Those scrolls.
Scrolls.
Enter scrolls.
1607.